session, and then the afternoon would be a separate recording if we decide to do that one as well. We've got to check with all the speakers yet. So again, welcome. Just about guarantee that we'll be meeting virtually again in May. We still have our soonest back to work date is May 1st, and I'd be surprised if we get back to the offices if we have any open conference rooms and open buildings by then. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt Robinson. He will introduce the presenters, and we'll get this started. So thanks everybody for joining, and again, we're recording, and if you could mute, we would appreciate that. So thank you.
Thanks, Everett. Go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. I'll go ahead and turn on my video for the introduction. All right.
Yes, we see your screen, Matt.
Thank you, Everett. All right, well, thanks again for inviting us here today. It's always great to be in Michigan, even if it's virtual this year, to present on what's new and what's coming with ArcGIS technology. So we have a really good agenda for you today. So let's take a look at what that is. So for the morning session, we're going to be covering a variety of topics on what's new. So we're going to have some presenters run through field operations and what's new with our geospatial cloud or with ArcGIS Online, and then what's new with our ArcGIS solutions. And I'll have the presenters introduce themselves as their presentations come online. And in the afternoon, we have a pretty unique experience for everyone where we're going to be talking about ArcGIS Enterprise, both the deployment and governance around ArcGIS Enterprise, where we'll be doing a brief overview of the Enterprise product. And then we'll actually be having a back and forth conversation with a couple of users out in the Michigan GIS community to talk about their experience with ArcGIS Enterprise. So with us today, we have the Esri team that supports the state of Michigan. So from the local government side, we have Sarah Schrader and Philip Julian. And then from the state government side, you have Mark Alexander and myself, Matt Robinson. And then we have a couple special guests here today as well from our ArcGIS Solutions team, Scott Ottman, Chris Fox, and Mike Daigle, who are actually located in Michigan. So it's always great to have them represent Esri during these user group meetings. And so with that, we're going to get started with our first presentation. I'm going to pass it off to Philip Julian to talk about what's new with our field operations and ArcGIS. And for each of these presentations, we'll definitely be monitoring the chat for folks to ask questions. And then any questions that we can't answer directly in the chat, we will have some time after each presentation to have all of you ask additional questions. So with that, Philip, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks, Matt. Are you guys able to see my screen?
We can.
Okay. And just 1 second here. Apologize, trying to get set up here. Apologize, let me Alrighty. I swear by the end of COVID, I'll get the hang of this Zoom's presentation. Thanks for the introduction, Matt. My name is Philip Julian. I'm a solution engineer with Esri in the Midwest office. I've met a number of y'all before, but for the ones that I haven't met, it's a great chance to meet you today, and I appreciate you letting me present today at this conference. Today I'm going to talk to you about our latest application for mobile operations, and that is ArcGIS field maps. And my goal this morning is going to be able to give you an overview of the application, providing context as to why field maps was created, how it enhances mobile operations, where we are currently at in the development process, and lastly, where we plan to go in the future. I'll give a brief PowerPoint presentation to go over some of this information and provide a brief demo of the mobile application and a brief demo of the web application. Obviously, we won't be able to cover everything in the short amount of time that we have, but I'll try to provide some overall context to the enhancements that we have built out with this application. And lastly, I'm hoping to keep this fairly casual. So if any time during the presentation you have any comments, please feel free to submit them through the chat window. And hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end to address those questions or comments. So that being said, we can go ahead and get started. So many of you may have seen this slide or something similar to this. This kind of classic image represents a high-level view of our traditional approach to field operations. Each stage of the mobile operations workflow has an application or applications that are associated with it. For instance, the capture phase and ArcGIS collector. This is a common pattern that we've seen deployed across many organizations. And we started building ArcGIS collector around 6 years ago in 2014, and it really became the cornerstone of our mobile operations initiative. As more organizations began adopting mobile applications into their workflows, we continued adding more capabilities based off of user feedback. Following the industry path that's been set forward by other organizations like Apple, Google, we built focused applications for each stage, activity, or capability, and really had them focused in on that. So the apps you see here are built from our core ArcGIS runtime SDKs and are the foundation of our mobile operations workflows. However, some organizations found that deploying multiple apps to complete a workflow was too cumbersome, as it requires downloading each item from the store, signing into each app, linking them together, and in some instances, even downloading copies of the data multiple times. So having received feedback directly from our users, we took this into consideration when we began looking at our approach to mobile operations. So this is Field Maps. It's a user-driven, simplified application designed to provide targeted capabilities for each stage of your mobile operations workflow. Essentially, our 5 core apps are going to be consolidated into one app that can be used to complete each stage or activity. What this means is you'll have one app to deploy, one app to understand from the point of view of a mobile user. And this is going to happen over 3 planned phases, the first of which we completed in December, and we'll take a look at that here in a little bit. But it's also important to note here that we can see in the lower right-hand corner that the specialized apps that are going to continue to be supported and enhanced on regular development schedules. And these apps include Survey123, Quick Capture, Mission Responder, ArcGIS Indoors, as well as ArcGIS Earth. These apps are standalone, they serve specialized purposes, and right now are not planned to be brought into the Field Maps application. So if we take a look at what's going to be available through the mobile app, we can see that we have consolidated these 5 foundational applications to provide a single user experience for things like exploring maps, high accuracy data collection, location tracking, work management, and navigation. We're taking Explore, continuing to do all of the best read-only simple map viewer stuff that's always been available, integrating that into Field Maps. We're doing all the same things with Collector, all that world-class data collection capability, including all the recent enhancements will be integrated into Field Maps. And an interesting thing to note is that Field Maps originated from the Collector code base. So if you're already comfortable using Collector, you should be very comfortable working with Field Maps on a mobile device. And lastly, in this phase 1 release, we're going to bring in the location capabilities of Tracker, which will allow for the ability to see the last locations of your mobile workforce and also record location history so that you can either see it in real time, where people have been throughout the day, and analyze it later using other tools on the ArcGIS platform. In future releases, we'll see integration of Navigator and workforce capabilities. So this will add the turn-by-turn voice-guided directions you get through Navigator, along with the dispatcher, mobile worker, to-do list, task management system that's always been available through Workforce. So 5 key benefits to putting this together in one application is, from a high-level view, there's going to be a lot easier abilities to deploy and maintain one application rather than multiple applications. And we developed this with a purpose to really streamline your mobile operations workflows from an IT management and user experience perspective. This approach allows users the ease of signing in once rather than multiple times if using multiple apps in previous mobile workflows. As we've seen, when you're using Workforce, Explorer, and Collector to achieve one goal. Utilizing one app will allow for the elimination of duplicate offline content and will have a smaller footprint on your devices when downloaded, and also bring some consistency across our apps and platform. And so an additional benefit to that will be, when looking ahead to our future roadmap for development, our team can really focus on developing for one app rather than trying to build those capabilities into multiple apps. And this is going to allow for emerging features that are coming to the platform to be integrated more rapidly as they're being developed for one app, adding a consistency to the process as well. So taking a really quick view of licensing. So licensing for Field Maps is straightforward and should offer a simple experience, as Field Maps is built to recognize capabilities through licensing and provide corresponding functionality for that specific user. For example, if you have a creator named user, you can leverage the same capabilities you would have access to in Collector, Workforce, or Explorer. Activities like performing inspections, creating or updating your asset inventory, or adding photos and attachments to those assets. Your viewer named users can still log into Field Maps. They just won't have the ability to perform edits, but they'll still have the ability to do all the read-only things, such as view dynamic web maps, use offline maps, and create markup, which we'll see later in the demo. And if you are licensed for Tracker, you get the tracking capabilities, and if paired with a viewer named user, leverage the viewer named user capabilities along with that. So before we launch into the demo, I wanted to briefly list a few of the capabilities of Field Maps, as we won't be able to cover everything within a quick demo of the mobile and web apps. The features listed on the mobile app come directly from the inclusion of the 5 kind of focused apps mentioned earlier, as well as some new capabilities such as indoor mapping support. And please note that the items listed in gray will not be in the first release, but will follow in additional phases. So with that, we'll go ahead and do a quick demo of the mobile application, and then we can take a look at the web application. Are you guys seeing my mobile screen?
We can.
Okay. So first, I'm going to jump into Collector. And this is something that you might be used to seeing already. So if we were doing a guardrail inspection and looking at doing inspections on the terminals, we can choose the guardrail. We can see that it is related to terminals, and we see those 2 terminals, and we can go ahead and choose to do an inspection on one of those. So we'll look at our inspection table and open that up, and we will add a new inspection. So we see all of our different attributes here, and let's just say we want to say the condition is good and submit. So we didn't actually attribute all the fields, and we just submitted the value is good for that particular inspection. Now, if we take a look at field maps, we could do a similar workflow. So if we were to go here, well, first, before we jump into that, I will point out two things. We leveraged arcade expressions to do some stacked labeling for our guardrail here. And as mentioned earlier, we can create markup. So if I were to draw a box around here, I could add a label to this, call this today's area. And if I wanted to, I can go ahead and get out of there or save it. So it'll be saved to my device, and I could share that within my organization. So going back to my inspection, click on the guardrail. And I'm going to go to my related terminals. I'm going to choose a terminal, and I'm going to do an inspection. And we can see we had done a previous inspection earlier. So we're going to do an inspection through ArcGIS field maps. So we'll go ahead and click inspection, and we can see a few differences here. We were able to group values in the inspection form, much like you're used to with Survey 123. Which allows you for better organization and really being able to display what you want captured to your staff while they're out there in the field. We can also notice a second difference with the asterisks denoting that these are required values. If we look in the upper right-hand corner, the submit button is grayed out. So we are unable to submit this until all of those conditions are met. So we'll go ahead and choose today's date. And we'll say this condition is fair. And in the comment, we'll say repair. Now, if, say, for instance, this was actually good quality and we didn't need that comment, we could change this to good. And upon doing so, we notice that comment section has been removed. And so that's part of conditional visibility, which we can set up through a thing called Smart Forms, which we'll take a look at on the web application side of this. So now that all of our conditions have been met with the required fields, the submit button is blue, and we can go ahead and submit that. Are you guys still able to see my screen?
We lost your mobile device, Philip.
Oh, are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Not yet. You may have to reshare.
Oh, okay.
We can see it
Can
now.
you see my PowerPoint?
Yep.
Okay. And are you able to see my Field Maps web application?
We can.
Okay. So taking a look at this, we viewed the mobile application, and we want to take a quick look at the ArcGIS Field Maps web app. And essentially, the ArcGIS Field Maps web application is for the GIS analyst and was built to configure and deploy maps within a centralized experience. Field Maps application requires ArcGIS Online or Enterprise 10.8.1, and you can download that to the imagery panel for Enterprise. And hopefully in the future it'll be able to ship with those releases. It's supported on modern web browsers. It requires a creator privilege to be able to work with it. And lastly, you must own maps within your organization. So capabilities of the application allow for the user to configure map properties, configure map content, so things like layers and tables, manage the map offline experience, and share with selected groups and deploy maps throughout your organization. So if we're taking a brief tour of this, we've launched the Field Maps web app through our app launcher. And once we do this, we can see the maps that we own, and more importantly, the ones that we choose to make visible. We can see My Maps, and we can see Hidden. So this experience is set up so you can search and view your maps in different ways. We can view properties on our map cards. So things like we can edit sharing, we could duplicate, or we could go in and configure. And so if we wanted to hide some of these, if we didn't want them to see on the, be able to see them on the mobile app when we first launched the mobile application, we can select a few and we can click Hide in the Field Maps Mobile. And now when we look at our Field Maps application, we won't see those cluttering our screen. So this just allows us to get a really quick view of what's going to be available when we launch that map. So let's go in and start configuring one of these maps through the web application. On the left-hand side, we see a set of tabs: Overview, Content, Offline, and Sharing. In the Overview tab, we see things like the summary, whether or not the application is hidden on mobile, if offline status is enabled, and the groups that it's shared with. We can also click Edit from here, and we could do things like change the name or the summary. If we look at the Content tab, we can see our editable layers. This is also going to give us access to our feature templates and forms, which we'll get into here in a little bit. We can take a look at our Offline tab, and this is going to give us our centralized experience for managing all of our different offline capabilities. So content or generating map areas. And if we look at our sharing tab, we can see the dialogue that we're used to seeing when it comes to sharing our content throughout an organization. So there's obviously a lot of information to cover here, but I'm going to focus in on two specific areas: the feature templates and the forms. So if we take a look at our guardrail terminals, we can see the Properties tab that opens up on the right-hand side. So we can click on this. We could change the name of this to say this was existing, and we can add a description to this. And we could give this a default value. So if we go into comments, we can say existing. And now that we've made those changes, we can see a blue dot has appeared and appeared on content as well, letting us know that we've made some changes. So another thing we can do is, if we like this template, and say we wanted to have a template for proposed, we could duplicate this. We could change this from existing to proposed to give us a new feature template. You can just copy that, drop it in there, and rather than a default value of existing, we could change that to proposed. So now we've essentially created a new feature template for our user to use that has some default values associated with it for when they conduct their field operations. We can also change the order in which these appear. And so if we like that, we can leave that there. We could save. If we made a change that we didn't like, we can always hit the undo button or the redo button, depending. And that will be available all the way back to the last save in the current experience. So if we want to take a really quick look at the smart forms, I'm going to choose our inspection table that we had worked on and choose this. And if we look at our form, the first thing we can do is we can convert the pop-up to our form, which is going to automatically bring in all of those attributes. Otherwise, we could use a form builder. One of the things we saw when we did our demo was there were 3 specific fields. We looked at an inspection date, condition, and comments. So if we bring up our inspection date to the top and condition and comments, that's all we need. So we can go ahead and remove these. Oh, there's that undo button. Since we're not going to be looking at these, we can bring in a new group name, and we'll call these inspection elements. And we'll give that the same for the description. And here we can choose the initial state to either be expanded or collapsed, just depending on how we want our user to interact with it when they are first greeted with that form. We can bring this to the top, and we can add each one of these elements to the group. And last, I want to talk really quickly about the conditional visibility that we looked at. So if we go to comments, we can add an expression for conditional visibility. And for this one, we really wanted to see if the condition field value didn't equal good. We wanted to be able to make that visible. So what we'll do is we'll drop in this expression, and we can build it from here. Our feature condition does not equal the coded value of 1, which corresponds with good. We'll test it. That checks out. We'll click OK. And now in the upper left-hand corner, we can see that there is a conditional visibility associated with the comments. So that was a quick overview of capabilities. Are you guys seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So we've mentioned a few times that we have some phased releases in our schedule. So we can go ahead and take a quick look at that. In December, we released the Field Maps web application as well as the second iteration of the Field Maps mobile application. And in doing so, we were able to achieve full parity with the applications that have been brought into Field Maps, specifically those being Collector, Explorer, and Tracker. And this completed phase 1. With this milestone complete, we announced the deprecation of those 3 apps that it's slated for December of this year. And by providing a year from the announcement, we want to be sure that we can provide ample support to make this a straightforward transition. Workforce should make its way into Field Maps in phase 2, which is TBD. And phase 3 will really bridge them all together with the inclusion of Navigator, bringing together that full cycle field operations experience into an easy to use, easy to manage application. Online, we have a lot of blog articles, links, documentation, things of that nature to learn more about this if you want to dive into the details. And so that's a quick high-level technical overview of Field Maps, and I hope that it was able to give you a better idea of why the application was developed and how it's going to continue to streamline field operations moving forward. Personally, I'm really excited about it as it's one of those applications that was really driven from user feedback. So you guys had comments, questions, concerns, we listened, and that was brought into the development of the application to meet those needs better. So keep the comments coming, and if there are questions or concerns or just if we have time, I'm happy to address any comments. Matt and I are happy to do that.
Thanks, Philip. That's a great presentation. I have been monitoring the chat, and there weren't any direct questions that were put into the chat window, but we do have some time. So if anyone would like to type anything into the chat or would like to unmute and ask a question about Philip's presentation, please do.
Hey, Matt, this is John Ash with Eagle.
Hey, John.
Hey, we're, as you know, we're our oil and gas field inspection app. It's using Collector with integrated with Servo N2 that's going quite well. We're slowly migrating to field maps. One of the struggles is it's not real intuitive for people to move their side-loaded base map from the collector base map folder to the field maps base map folder, and it's pretty straightforward once you do it a couple times. But those small things can be bigger hiccups for folks. So just it's an observation, but we are about half of our folks have already migrated to field maps.
Good deal. I'm happy to hear that that's you guys are having a being able to work with it.
That brings up a good point too, John. That the field maps application, one of the benefits Philip mentioned was that you wouldn't have to have duplicate data across your applications anymore. So those side-loaded base maps that might have needed to be used for Collector and Explore, they would have had to have been duplicated on your device. So the great thing about field maps is that side load only needs to occur once, and it can be accessed in the app with all the capabilities.
I think another advantage is that some of our nice arcade expressions that we had for our pop-ups in Collector, they work fine in the web map, but they're not showing up in Collector, but they show up great in field maps.
And I did have a question pop up here in the chat, Philip. I think you might have mentioned this at the very beginning of your presentation, but does field maps work in both Enterprise Portal and ArcGIS Online?
Yep, you beat me to it. I was getting ready to type some stuff into the chat box there. Yes, it's available on ArcGIS Online and Portal at 10.8.1. And that's available to download through imagery, and there's plans on hopefully in the future being able to just have it ship with Portal.
And we had another question in the chat too that I answered, but just so everyone can hear the answer. Someone asked, does it connect to external GPS receivers? And just threw in the chat, yes, it does connect to GNS receivers, just like Collector has in the past. Another question in the chat, will updates for Enterprise, as the quarters move forward, will they be available via a patch download? So will any updates to field maps be available as they become available for download for Enterprise? And I can, as far as field maps goes, ArcGIS Online is on a more aggressive update schedule than some of our on-prem technology. So I can't guarantee that the updates that you'll see in ArcGIS Online will be available right away in ArcGIS Enterprise, but they'll be pretty closely following. Another question, Philip. Are we able to link our Survey 123 forms with field maps like you could with Collector?
I want to say yes. I haven't built that out specifically, but that workflow seems to be a pattern that we see. It's fairly ubiquitous throughout our organization. So I would wager that's correct.
Yep. Any other questions for Philip on field operations? All right. Well, thank you, Philip, for the presentation. We can move on to our next presenter, which is me. So let me share my screen. And Philip, can you see my screen?
I sure can.
Thank you. All right. So the next presentation that we have for you today is focusing in on what's new and what's coming with Esri's geospatial cloud. And I mentioned in the intro that Esri's geospatial cloud is really just ArcGIS Online. It's another name for ArcGIS Online. And it's just representing the idea that organizations have their own kind of geospatial clouds where they're installing ArcGIS Enterprise and our technology in cloud environments to help them be more responsive and scalable. And Esri has been doing that for many, many years through ArcGIS Online and hosting a cloud-first SaaS environment for you to take advantage of. And over the past year, we've made some exciting additions to ArcGIS Online, and then we also have another exciting addition coming this year. And so we'll be covering these applications and capabilities in this presentation. So we're going to start with ArcGIS Experience Builder. And Experience Builder is going to be the new kind of immersive web app building experience that's available in ArcGIS Online. So it's available to all ArcGIS Online creators to be able to build, and then any user to be able to view, just like Web App Builder, or dashboards, and our other configurable apps. It's available in ArcGIS Online right now for you to take advantage of. And like our other web apps, Experience Builder lets you get started really easily. We have out-of-the-box templates and widgets that you can use to help you get started. But one of the unique things about Experience Builder is that you really have complete control over the layout and the design elements of the app so that you can create a very unique user experience, which is different from all of our other app configurers that we've had in the past. So you can have a table-centric app, or an app that navigates users through several pages or windows. And then we even have some users that are using Experience Builder to build their own templates to roll out to their agencies so that their entire agency is using similar templates for building out their apps. And Experience Builder is built on the JavaScript 4x API, like a lot of the newer applications that we're releasing in ArcGIS Online. So not only can you use your web maps that you're currently using in the map viewer in ArcGIS Online, but you can also use the enhanced capabilities that are in the map viewer beta right now, because that's built off of the JavaScript 4x. And because Experience Builder is built on the new API, we can integrate 2D and 3D content into one app and allow users to have a mobile adaptive and mobile responsive design for their applications. Some agencies are even using it to configure one application that, depending on the app that you're using, so if you're on a mobile device or a desktop browser, it will show you a different configuration of that application to make sure that the users are getting the response or getting the user experience that they expect. And looking at here at some examples of Experience Builder applications that have been built by users, you can really see the flexibility of the design and the layouts across Experience Builder that are available to you. So each agency, each user, you can configure apps that meet particular business needs. So you can see some apps that are page-based, gallery-based. We have some maps in here, even some maps that incorporate 3D, and then even some that have that mobile responsive design incorporated to it. And then just like some of our other web applications like dashboards, you can embed Survey 123 within Experience Builder to collect information from the public or from your users. And so that's a really high level overview of Experience Builder, but I really want to jump in and kind of show you what Experience Builder looks like and what the experience is configuring an application. So here on the screen, I'm logged into an ArcGIS Online organization, and in the app launcher, just like Philip showed you that you could get to field maps, you can also get to Experience Builder. And here we're going to see all the experiences that we've configured and that we've published, and we can go ahead and create a new experience. And these blank templates over here on the left, this is really where you have complete control over building out a unique layout for your application. But to help users get started, we've incorporated a lot of different templates that have different layout types for users. And so we're going to choose one of these templates just to get started really quickly. So Experience Builder loads the template here in the center of the screen. This is what the user will see. And then on the left-hand side, we can control the elements in this layout. So if I expand this outline, we can see we have some images, some text, and some different elements here in our application that we can adjust. We can also add additional elements. So these are all the widgets and elements that can be added to Experience Builder. And this list will grow as Experience Builder grows as an application as well. So we'll be bringing over a lot of widgets that are currently in Web App Builder to provide some feature parity with that application. You can also add data sets and maps to use in your apps, and then change the theme to meet your organization standards or whatever initiative you're working on. And then on the right-hand side is where most of the configuration happens within Experience Builder. And it's contextual. So depending on what I'm clicking on here in the experience, I'm provided with configuration options. So I've clicked on the map, and I can go ahead and navigate to a map that I've created earlier. I'm originally from Michigan, so I have a lot of favorite spots in Michigan. And so we'll go ahead and load this map into our application. We can adjust the tools that are available for our users right in the app. And this particular template has a list on the left that's meant to show details from your features. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that list, and you can see it's activated on the right, and I can go ahead and select the data that I just brought in from my map. And since I've connected this list to my data set, I can now adjust any of these text fields to bring in data fields from that data set. So go ahead and add the location and the date. And this works with images as well. So I can set static images for each of these, but I can also grab the attachments from this particular feature layer. So now I'm seeing the images come in directly. And one of the other things that I might want to do is, as users are interacting with the map, I might want the map to show me where this picture is. And so we have an action tab over here that we can add a trigger. So when I select a record in the list, I want the map to flash. So let's see what that looks like. At any point, I can switch to a live view of what the user will see in my application. So if I click on the Capitol building, it lights up. If I click on Sleeping Bear Dunes, I see that location on the map. I can also quickly adjust and see what it looks like on a mobile device. So you can see how we're mobile first in our design and our responsiveness for these applications. Then the one last thing that I'll show is the ability to add additional elements to this layout. So we used a template to build this, but we can customize it further. So let's switch out of our live view. And I'm going to come into our element bar over here, and I'm going to add a pop-up window. We have a bunch of templates we can choose from. I want the user to be able to click on the list and get a bigger picture of the information. So I'm going to connect this pop-up window to my data in my web map. And again, use the dynamic attachment. And it's actually stretching the image here a little bit, so I can adjust that as well. We have a lot of settings that can be adjusted in these elements. I'll connect the text to the data to make sure to bring in the title. So now I have the database button here. I'll click a location, and I'll do the same thing for the description. And I'll go ahead and add our date. We can also format the text itself, and so we have some contextual pop-ups here that allow us to adjust. Let's go ahead and make this text larger and bold it out. And one of the things you might notice is the text actually gets cut off here. So Experience Builder makes it really easy to select a text element, and under the stylize options, I can adjust the width and the height and other properties about the text. But I don't actually know what the width and the height is going to be for each of these because each of them are different lengths. So Experience Builder lets me set an auto to the width and the height so that it'll adjust with the data. So I'll go ahead and switch back to our page, and I can click on our link or our list here, and I'm going to go ahead and set a link. So when someone clicks on the list, I want to open a new page, a new window. In this case, I created that window earlier. I'll click OK, and let's check the live view. So now when I click on a list, I get a nice pop-up with a bigger picture, and the location is highlighted on the map. So just within a couple minutes, we've been able to configure a pretty good looking application without having to write any custom code. All right. So that is one of the new applications, configurable applications that are available within ArcGIS Online. I want to switch gears now and talk briefly about a new experience in ArcGIS Online that's more developer friendly or more script friendly or data sciencey friendly. And this is ArcGIS Notebooks. This is available in ArcGIS Online right now for organizations to utilize. And you might be asking, what is a notebook? So at a really high level, a notebook is a web-based interactive environment for you to write code and document code. And Jupyter has been a really popular open source notebook environment for a while. And so what we've done is we've integrated that environment into ArcGIS Online. And so this makes it available to data scientists, to analysts, to GIS administrators to perform and conduct code within ArcGIS Online. And so ArcGIS Notebooks provides a lot of things to users. We provide ready-to-use scripting libraries that can be imported into the notebook. So ArcGIS API for Python, ArcPy, and then a lot of the open source libraries, machine learning libraries, statistical libraries can be brought in to perform analysis and run your code. And within ArcGIS Online, we make it easy to have a one-click access to a new notebook environment where you can build out and document your code. And because it's integrated with ArcGIS Online, you have really easy access to all of your GIS items in ArcGIS Online and all the analysis tools within ArcGIS Online that you can add in, and it will write that piece of code for you. And because notebooks, it does have the integration with online, you can take those notebook items and share them with your colleagues. So if they have their own data that they want to run through your analysis in your notebook, you can share your notebook with them and collaborate on those analytics. And so we've seen notebooks help people solve problems in a lot of different ways. One of the biggest ones is the ability to tell a story with your code or with your script. So you can type out and format text and directions and information about what's happening in your code base. So that helps promote transparency and allows people to reproduce your analysis if you were to leave an organization or if they wanted to do it themselves. And then the notebook environment is interactive. And so you can iterate on your code as you write it. You can write a piece of code, run it. If it doesn't work or doesn't give you the result you need, you adjust it, rerun it again. It's a very iterative experience. And we see use cases for notebooks across our users, from data scientists to WebGIS administrators. And notebooks is a capability that's available across the ArcGIS ecosystem. We'll be focusing on ArcGIS Online today, but the same experience is available across ArcGIS. And one of the things that we've done at Esri is provide a lot of samples of notebooks for our users to access and test out. So we have samples for data scientists, for GIS administrators that are managing content or managing users. A lot of the notebooks don't require you to write any code. They're ready to run out of the box in ArcGIS Online. And then there are other more complicated notebooks that do deep learning and machine learning that will need a little bit of configuration, but the base is there for you to get started really quickly. And so we're going to take a look at a workflow that I run quite often using the notebook environment. So within ArcGIS Online, default administrators will automatically see the notebook tab up at the top of ArcGIS Online, but administrators can provide the notebook capability to any user within their organization that needs to use it. So I'll go ahead and log in here and click on the notebook tab. And we're given access to all of the notebooks that we've created, any notebooks that have been shared with us by users in our organization. And then these are the sample notebooks I mentioned, where we have notebooks for ArcGIS administrators to use to validate user profile information, check for broken URLs, validate that items have metadata on them when people publish them. And then we get into some data science notebooks like deep learning and visualization samples that are available to help you learn how to use notebooks and the GIS data that you have access to. So we're going to use a notebook that I use quite often, and it was developed by one of the solution engineers I work with here at Esri. And it's the ability for users to move content from one organization to another. That could be ArcGIS Online to ArcGIS Online, or portal to portal, or any combination of that. So here's the notebook experience. We have some text here describing what the notebook can be used for, and then we have a series of code blocks that can be run. So if I run this first code block, what's happening is that we're importing the necessary libraries, Python libraries, connecting to the GIS, and then we're asking the user to provide some information. So let's go ahead and provide some information from the organization where our data currently exists. And it's going to ask us to authenticate into that organization, so we can provide our username and our password. And then we want to move content from this organization into another organization. So I'll go ahead and run this next code block, which is the same as before, but it's connecting to a different organization. And this can be useful if you're trying to promote content between your environments, or if you just need to share something that you've built with a different organization. So here I've logged into both organizations, and now we're able to run this next code block, which is built to search through that organization and show me all the content that I have. And you can see here the scroll bar is shrinking. I have a lot of content in this org. And the idea here is that you can see the information that you have and grab an item ID that you'd like to copy. So let's take a look at the two environments that we're talking about. We have an environment here in ArcGIS Online where I've created this dashboard that I am fond of, and I don't want to lose it. And so I want to move it into this organization over here. So you can see this dashboard that I've created. So what we can do is, up in the URL, I'm just going to grab the item ID for the dashboard. And then back in our notebook here, I don't need to search for it because I just grabbed it myself. I'll run our last set of code blocks. And this is just asking the user, what item ID do you want to copy? And then it's running through the clone operation for this particular item ID. So we get some feedback. It says the copy operation has started, and here's the dashboard. That's the name of the dashboard we were just looking at. And now it's running through that operation to copy the dashboard over. So let's head over to our organizations again. You can see here, here's the dashboard that we wanted to copy. I'll go ahead and refresh my other organization. You can see some interesting things happen that you might not have expected, but it's to help migrate that content better. Here's our dashboard, the item that we put in, but this dashboard uses a web map, and then that web map has a data set in it. And so the clone operation was able to identify the dashboard and any dependent items, and it actually brought all of those over into the new organization. And so I can launch this dashboard, and you can see it's the same dashboard that we were seeing in the previous organization. So the data, the map, and the dashboard came over. So notebooks can be used for this type of GIS administrator task, along with a lot of other data science and machine learning workflows. All right. So notebooks and Experience Builder are available in ArcGIS Online for our users today. No additional, nothing additional subscription is needed. What I want to cover next is something that is pretty unique to ArcGIS Online in the SAS environment, and it's something that is really exciting capability that I want to cover, called ArcGIS Velocity. And a lot of you may already be familiar with some of the real-time and big data capabilities in ArcGIS Enterprise, which is our on-prem software, that are delivered through the server roles for GeoEvent and GeoAnalytics. And within Enterprise, those are really the products that you can use to bring together a lot of data and analyze it. And so when we think about ArcGIS Online and Velocity, this new product is the parallel to that, but in the cloud environment. So you have GeoEvent capabilities for real-time incident detection. You have GeoAnalytic capabilities for big data summaries and analysis. And because Velocity is a SaaS product, it's in ArcGIS Online in our cloud environment, it can handle faster and higher volume data without you needing to install and maintain more server infrastructure on your end. And so to really take advantage of a lot of this big data that's coming into sensors nowadays, you really have to do 4 fundamental things. You have to be able to ingest that data that's coming from the sensors. You have to be able to analyze the data so you can get real-time insight, and then also analyze the historical big data to get insights. And then you need to create alerts to let people know what is happening when, so that they can take action and make decisions on that data. And ArcGIS Velocity is designed specifically to meet all of these challenges and provides a framework for deploying them in ArcGIS Online. And so all the real-time and big data capabilities that you need are available as a service in ArcGIS Online. So you can ingest sensor data with feeds, and then you can pull that data through analytical workflows to create real-time analytics and big data analytics on those feeds. And so what this provides is a really great framework that can be configured to support a large number of use cases for organizations. So taking in the data, visualizing it, analyzing it, performing geofences, finding and detecting incidents, doing trend analysis, and then even alerting your users when something needs to happen. So you may be asking how ArcGIS Velocity works as an actual product in ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Velocity is an annual subscription that is on top of ArcGIS Online, and it's purchased for each organization individually. So it's an overall capability that's made available to an organization. So we don't sell it by username, it's sold by organization. What does this mean for users of Velocity? So Velocity is managed through a web app, just like a lot of our other applications. And this web application is available to creators and GIS professionals, and they're the ones that can create the feeds and create the real-time analytics. Now, the great thing about Velocity is that the analytics, the feeds, the feature layers, the stream layers that they're creating, they're available to anyone in the organization that they're shared with. So editors, field workers, viewers can view those in applications to help them make better decisions. And so let's take a look at what Velocity looks like. I'm here in ArcGIS Online. I can launch Velocity if I have it enabled for my organization through the app launcher. And ArcGIS Velocity will give me access to create the real-time feeds and the real-time analytics and big data analytics that I have available to me. So if we create a feed real quick, we can see what we have available to us. We can use ArcGIS layers to create a real-time feed. We can grab data from Azure, from Amazon, or cloud services and stream that into our GIS. And we can also access web and messaging services like HTTP and RSS feeds. So for this demo, we'll just do a simple HTTP simulator. So here, Velocity is going to ask us for the source of our data. And so we have access to a data source for demo purposes here. And then we're able to configure it to let them know that, okay, we're grabbing a CSV. What's the delimiter of the CSV? How many features do we want it to execute per second? And then what are some of the other variables we might want to adjust? I'll then click Next. And what Velocity will do is it'll go to that data source and provide me a high-level overview of some of the data that will be coming in through the feed. So we can see some attributes here for IDs, for location, for dates, and then other attribution. You can see our date field here is, or our location field is actually all in one field, which is fine. We can parse through that through Velocity. And then this is a date field, so I'm going to actually switch that from a string to a date. And then we can again adjust the field names as needed. I'll click Next. And then Velocity is going to ask us for some information. Because we're in ArcGIS, we want to take advantage of location. So our data was coming in through a single geometry field. If it had 2 separate fields, we can of course use that as well. So I'll click the geometry field. I'll select the field that had the location in it, the type of geometry. I know it's a point data set. And then the format. It could come in as coordinates. You could come in and parse GeoJSON. So there's a lot of flexibility here for creating these live feeds. And then it's going to ask for a spatial reference system so that Velocity knows how to project this data correctly. And we can always reproject it on the fly using Velocity later. And then for date and time fields, we've made it really easy for you to adjust the date fields into a format that you need. And so we actually have this date formatter example that you can find the date format that matches your data. And in this case, it's the second one. Copy the format and not have to know off the top of your head how to format that date. Then we have the ability to add a unique ID to track these features over time. And then the last step is just to create a name for your feed layer, and that's it. Velocity will ingest that data and create a feed. And so I created that feed earlier, and let's grab that feed and take a look. We have a live feed that has all the details they went through in the previous screen, along with the geometry details and the schema. And what's great about these feeds in ArcGIS Online is that they actually create an item within ArcGIS Online. And so when we navigate to this particular item, this is where you can see we can share out this feed to other people within our organization to use within their maps and their apps to support decisions. We can also take these live feeds and ingest them into real-time and big data analytics to actually perform analysis on this data that's coming in. So I've already created a real-time analytic. I'm going to go ahead and start that and show you what this real-time analytic looks like. Here we're taking the data that's coming in through the live feed. And in this case, it's actually positions of vehicles with hazardous waste materials that we want to track. And what we're doing is we're projecting that data to a different spatial reference system so that we can perform some spatial filters on that data set. And in this case, we want to look at public schools within 500 feet of these trucks as they're passing by, because we want to know if there are any routes that these trucks are taking that bring them close to public schools. We don't want to take a chance that those hazardous materials will leak. So now that we have started up this real-time analytic, we're going to switch over to web map here and show you what the result of us setting up these feeds can do. So here in the web map, we can see we have some points here for our public schools. And I'll go ahead and expand the real-time feed data. You're seeing the orange are the trucks that are traveling along with their tracks. And then the real-time analytic, the geofence that we've created, there's actually a truck right here that has passed within 500 feet of these two schools. And so on the map, we get this visual representation of where those trucks have routed so that we can make better decisions about where we might want to reroute these trucks in the future so they're not passing through vulnerable communities or by vulnerable populations. You can see here we're also seeing a geofence being drawn around this truck as well as it's passing over this school. So that was just one example of how you can incorporate live feed data into your organization through ArcGIS Velocity and how you can perform real-time analytics on those data sets. Really cool capability that looking forward to seeing our users take advantage of. So the final piece of technology that I'll cover today, I don't have a lot of information on because it has not been released yet, but it's one that I am probably most excited about coming to ArcGIS Online. And this is a new product that's called ArcGIS Online Imagery. So if you're familiar with imagery in ArcGIS, it's been around for a really long time. We've supported imagery and remote sensing within ArcGIS in a variety of different ways, from managing the images, from visualizing them, from providing them out as services to your users, and then also analysis and machine learning on those images. And we support a variety of imagery and raster types that you can use for visualization and analysis. So you're able to use your local files, files stored in the cloud, web services, can all be used throughout the ArcGIS ecosystem. And traditional imagery workflows, you had that local data store of your imagery, and your desktop users would connect directly to it. More recently, many agencies use the more modern imagery workflow where you still have the data store of your images, but there's a central server like ArcGIS Server or ArcGIS Enterprise with Image Server that can host services of those images and push them out to your users on the mobile devices, through the web, or through desktop. And this workflow requires you to have server infrastructure, either on-prem or in the cloud, to maintain, to host those images and the services that come with it. So what we're introducing this year within ArcGIS Online Imagery is that it will bring many of the capabilities that are currently available in Image Server directly into ArcGIS Online. So you'll be able to store all forms of imagery and raster directly in ArcGIS Online, where it can be served as tiled imagery or dynamic imagery. And then you can perform image analysis directly in ArcGIS Online in the cloud to create new information products. And for those of you that might be asking what tiled imagery is, it's actually a new ability for JavaScript client applications to stream in imagery tiles, even multispectral tiles, and tiles that are in any projection. And then all of the rendering and reprojection happens client side. So that could be on a browser, in a browser application, or in ArcGIS Pro through the desktop environment. And even with data like you're seeing here, like elevation data, you can see that the image service was configured to render as elevation values, but client side, through ArcGIS Online, we can actually render the data differently to get exactly what we need for our applications. And ArcGIS Online Imagery is also going to support categorical data. So that's data that can be projected on the fly client side as well. And what's nice about the JavaScript 4x API, like in the Map Viewer beta, any tiled imagery service that's being used in ArcGIS Online will actually start to render those tiles out of the view of the user, so that as they're panning and zooming on the map, they're actually not really ever going to see a rendering lapse for those images, which is a really great user experience feature. And then this imagery can also work in 3D through Scene in ArcGIS Online. So you can project and render data not only in 2 dimensions, but also in 3 dimensions directly in ArcGIS Online. So overall, this is why I'm super excited about this new product that's coming this year. It's going to provide a completely hosted option for imagery management moving forward in ArcGIS Online. So with that, I covered a lot of new products within ArcGIS Online that are available. So we can open it up for questions. I think we have some time for some questions. I don't know if any came into the chat, Philip.
There's been a few who've been trying to kind of answer them as they've come in. So looking to see, we had a question about data being published or hosted within the ArcGIS cloud, and if there are any limits to how much, something like file size or number of tiles that you can publish.
Yeah, do you know if that was specific to the imagery product or just in general with ArcGIS Online?
Believe that is from ArcGIS Online. It came in earlier in the conversation.
Yeah, we've definitely improved the size limitation that you can upload data directly into ArcGIS Online. I don't remember off the top of my head what the limit was in the past, but we significantly updated it. I think we're almost up to maybe 500 gigabytes that can be directly uploaded into ArcGIS Online for service creation. And we're able to do that because we're during the upload process, we actually break those files up into small pieces and upload them up in a more efficient way and then put them back together. So the ability to upload larger data sets is definitely something that has been improved over the past year in ArcGIS Online.
Sorry, regarding that question what I meant was, I guess it was specifically for experience builder, and does that like basically like 500 gigs is for all the apps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the question was, So that specific question was, is that just for Experience Builder or for ArcGIS Online in general and all the apps associated with it? So that is for ArcGIS Online as a whole, and any application that you build, whether it's a dashboard or Experience Builder or a web app builder, will just utilize the data and the maps and the information that you already have in your organization. So there is no kind of limit per application. Any application will utilize the data that you have available within your organization.
Okay, Matt, and it looks like we had a question just come in. Will the new imagery support in ArcGIS Online be included in existing licenses, or will it be an additional license or license charge like Velocity?
That's a good question, and that information hasn't been released yet. It'll come with the product release later this year. So I cannot answer that question yet.
We did have a question for some clarification on, can notebooks be imported or exported from ArcGIS Online to be used in other Jupyter-based software?
It can. Yep. You can export your notebook into several different formats, including the native Jupyter format. So if you're running Jupyter locally on your machine, you can download a notebook onto that machine and run it. And it works the other way as well. If you have a notebook that you've built in Jupyter and want to upload that to ArcGIS Online, you can upload that file type and notebooks will recognize it and allow you to utilize it there. And then you can, of course, share that out with other users.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions coming in?
Oh, looks like we just got one. Can the administration notifications notebook template be used to notify data uploads?
If you're referring to the template, I know several of the templates in ArcGIS notebooks that are available on ArcGIS Online right now have a notification piece built into it. I don't think there's one specific for data upload notifications, but you could definitely, and that's the great thing about notebooks, you can take the notification code block and put it into your notebook where you're calling kind of the data upload piece of ArcGIS Online instead of, I think, what the samples are doing, which might be like notifying users if they have like incomplete URLs or an incomplete profile information. So definitely encourage you to utilize just the notebook or the notification piece of that notebook and pull it in to do that workflow. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, let's transition. So our next presentation will be focused in on ArcGIS solutions, and I will turn it over to Scott to introduce his team and to talk more about what's new with ArcGIS solutions.
Hey, Matt, thanks. Hopefully you guys can hear us okay. Let me just share my screen and we'll get started. So my name's Scott Ottman. I lead the ArcGIS Solutions team here at Esri, and joining me today is Chris Fox, who leads the development of our infrastructure solutions, and Mike Daigle, who works with Chris and kind of heads our elections solutions as well too. And we want to give you a quick update on the work we've been doing with ArcGIS Solutions. So hopefully you can hear us okay and you can see our slides. And I just want to spend a few minutes setting some context and then turn it over to Chris and Mike and let them show you some interesting things we've been working on in 2020. So for those that aren't familiar with ArcGIS Solutions, we sit at the intersection of business and technology and really help you leverage all of the new capabilities that Philip and Matt showed you today. And our mission is to provide industry-specific maps and apps that help you leverage those capabilities in your organization. We do that work by partnering with our users across the country to define what the key business needs are and how we can configure ArcGIS to meet those needs, and then ship them with ArcGIS so you can take advantage of them with the solutions, or I'm sorry, with the software you license from us. So much like the capabilities we've shown you so far this morning, they're fully supported and they're just part of ArcGIS. So our mission and our goal really is to help you solve common business needs by applying the investments you're making in location-based data and technology. And we deliver a set of integrated maps and apps that are organized around key workflows in your organization, the work you do in state and local governments, which I think most of you today are from those organizations. Through that, right, we're helping you drive the implementation of ArcGIS and really setting, new capabilities and helping you kind of reevaluate how you measure success. Like, success isn't the number of desktops or servers you have, it's really the impact you're having on the business. And our goal is to really help you kind of expand your reach and drive those implementations deeply throughout your organization and help you take advantage of the modern capabilities that we continuously release in both our enterprise and online and pro software releases. We are a conduit to the software development team and using the experiences that were developed, as we develop these solutions to provide feedback to core dev, and ultimately in many cases developing some key capabilities that just ship with the product and make it easier to solve these common business problems. And it is very much a participatory sport. We always partner with customers. We take the best practices that we learn through those experiences and build it into the product so you guys just have a better and more functional place to start your projects and your implementations. So there's probably 150 to 175 solutions that are available across the industries we serve. And if you were to boil those up, you can kind of see some major capabilities we provide. We really help you manage that authoritative data that you have in ArcGIS. That could be utility information, addresses, maybe producing 3D base maps for your community, maybe even simpler things like road closures that you want to syndicate with Waze and make it available on consumer devices. In many cases, you'll find solutions that help you kind of take that authoritative data you have and understand community conditions or create new understanding. One of our most popular solutions is the crime analysis solution, which provides a whole set of analytical tools that help you take your incident data and produce a standard set of crime maps for operations staff and command staff in your organization. You'll see many of these solutions are really operational systems that you can use to manage transactions and key workflows in your organization. A good example of that is the election management solution, which can be used by local clerks to keep track of wait times at polling places, issues that may pop up during the election day, and ultimately then send out rovers and triage that information and measure and manage the performance of your polling places and the elections overall. The other interesting thing about election management is it allows clerks to then gauge sentiment from voters and use all of that information to plan future elections and future staffing needs at those polling places. Many of our solutions have operational or strategic performance capabilities that let you gain new insight. And because we work obviously with government and being transparent and engaging citizens is a key aspect of that, you'll find several of our solutions are designed to really help you modernize the way you share your location-based data with customers, organize it around key business needs, align our technology with kind of common patterns that customers expect when they're using location-based maps and apps now, and deliver that information in an immersive way. So, I'll just kind of talk for a few minutes about adoption. Just know as you start to use ArcGIS solutions, you're not alone. This was a big year for us in terms of adoption. The key message out of this slide is that we started the year averaging a little over 400 deployments a month across the big sectors that we served, and ended the year with nearly 900 a month, or a week actually, that is. So we're really on a really positive trajectory, and many of our customers are beginning to take advantage of the solutions in more meaningful ways in their organization. And you guys really represent the lion's share of adoption and use of ArcGIS solutions. Our government, public safety, and utility sectors are really the largest customers we serve, and we have a lot of solution offerings for you in those spaces. It's more than the numbers. The numbers just kind of tell one part of the story. And, for this meeting, I was kind of looking across the Michigan GIS landscape, and you'll see organizations big and small taking advantage of many different capabilities we have. in the ArcGIS solutions. I just pulled out some of the public engagement ones to share with you some of those examples, but there probably are many other examples of how your organizations are using ArcGIS solutions to either modernize internal workflows or, in this case, obviously change the way you're sharing information with the public. In 2020, you'll find that we launched a whole host of new content that's available for our ArcGIS solutions users. If you're in the government space, you'll find many new public engagement offerings that help with things like police transparency or equitable property value, which we're going to show you today. If you're responsible for managing utilities in your organization, there's a whole host of new data management solutions that help you do that with a utility network and rich information in ArcGIS Pro, or maybe you're just getting started with your asset inventory and you want to do that in a simple SaaS-based way. This year also, we modernized one of our more popular solutions, address data management, and that really helps you manage authoritative address information in ArcGIS Pro in a very efficient and straightforward way. And you'll also see that that solution takes advantage, or incorporates is probably a better way to say it, the NG 911 guidelines that many communities are responding to now. And the last one I'll mention is that, with the pandemic, we saw real growth in the use of outdoor recreation resources that were available in state and local governments. And recreation outreach is a new solution that leverages ArcGIS Hub and a series of integrated locator applications to help members of your community find all those rich natural resources you have in your jurisdiction. So there's a whole host of new content that you can take advantage of. And if you haven't gone and looked at kind of what's new in 2020, these are just a quick highlight of many of the offerings we have released. The other thing in 2020 for us, it was we spent a great deal of time working to help communities respond to and recover from, or start to recover from, the pandemic. And in addition to the solutions I just mentioned, you'll also find 13 or 14 COVID-related solutions that really started probably back last March with a set of capabilities to help you respond to the pandemic and communicate information and actions you're taking in your community. There's also a set of solutions that are designed to help your organization maintain business continuity and then even plan reopening if you are, reopening facilities in your for your government agency or state agency specifically. There's solutions to help expand testing capacity, and I can just go through, many of the capabilities we developed and solutions that are being leveraged to help with the pandemic. The last couple I'll mention, we released them just before Christmas, is the vaccine outreach and vaccine distribution dashboard. And these are really designed to help you socialize those vaccination plans you're developing for your state, for your county, for your community, build confidence in those plans, and help people find a place to be vaccinated and ultimately get them started in your kind of sign up program, or maybe get them to a provider that has doses available. The distribution dashboard then takes information that you're tabulating as you are starting to vaccinate members of your community and allows you to be transparent and share that information with the public and monitor key target populations that you're trying to address with your vaccination plans. So in addition to the new content that we shipped in 2020, it was also a year of transition for us, and I'm excited for Chris to show you some of the work we've been doing to make it easier for you to deploy ArcGIS solutions. And so if you haven't been to the solution site recently, what you're going to find is there's a whole new product experience that really provides a consistent look and feel for our solutions irrespective of the industry. ArcGIS solutions are now delivered with the ArcGIS software that you license, so whether that's online or soon ArcGIS Enterprise, and the tools we've developed when necessary are just part of Pro and other capabilities we deliver. So for us, this was a really kind of major inflection point. We're really not a kind of bolt-on to ArcGIS any longer. We're just integrated with the software that you use, and you can take advantage of it really quickly, which I think you'll see when Chris does his demonstration in a minute. So things are just getting easier, and the content we're providing is getting richer. So before I turn it over to Mike and Chris, I just want to kind of summarize what are we working on, this year, and what are some of the big things we're thinking about. Philip actually showed, a simple asset inventory and inspection workflow, but that concept is something we're really focused on. And how do we help organizations that may not have an asset management system or want to get started in asset management do simple asset inventories and condition assessments and asset management like workflows. And so if you're interested in that topic from your community, I would encourage you to reach out to Mike because he's leading that work for us, and you'll see a whole host of new solutions coming in that space. The other thing that'll probably be relevant to some of you is that we're working on a new snow operations offering and continuing to evolve our data management offerings for utilities. We're investing in other public works capabilities, other planning and natural resources capabilities. And so if you see anything on this slide that is of interest to your organization and something that you'd like to work with us on, like I said, I just encourage you to reach out, connect with us, and we'd be glad to partner with you and share the work we're doing. And you can get access to it early if you'd like. So my key takeaways before I turn it over to Chris to show you some new things we've been working on is that ArcGIS includes a rich set of solutions that you can leverage across many industries, many domains, and they really help you drive the implementation of ArcGIS deep and wide in your organizations. They help you leverage the key capabilities that Matt and Philip showed you earlier. This is your opportunity really to drive what's in the ArcGIS solution portfolio. So if you do have ideas for new solutions, enhancements to existing solutions, we encourage you to reach out. And it's never been easier. I think you're going to see today that in just a matter of moments, you can browse the gallery of solutions we have and deploy them quickly in your organization and gain value and maximize the value of the investment you're making in ArcGIS. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it over to Chris, and he's going to show you some things. And then, Matt, we can take questions however you'd like today. So if you see questions coming in, don't hesitate to stop us.
Thanks, Scott. So last June, we released the ArcGIS Solutions app with ArcGIS Online. It's available to all ArcGIS Online users via the app launcher. And this app now makes it easier than ever for you to deploy ArcGIS solutions in your organization. The app will display a gallery of solutions that are available to deploy, and I can explore by industry or domain, or I can search by keyword. So let's take a look at some of the COVID-19 solutions we released last year. I can click on any of the cards to get some more details about the solution. We'll describe the key capabilities of the solution and who the intended audience is for it. We also provide a Learn More link that will take you to the documentation where you can learn more about the requirements of the solution and walk through some of the user workflows. When you find a solution that you're interested in, you can click Get Now. And that's it. At this point, what it's going to do is start to deploy that content into your organization. So solutions are composed of lots of items across the platform. For example, the coronavirus vaccine distribution dashboard has some hosted feature layers and views. It has a couple web maps, some dashboards, a survey 123 form, and an experience builder web experience. And the app right now is creating all that content inside my organization, already pre-configured and ready to use. I'm also taken to the My Solutions tab where I can see other solutions that I've previously deployed. And when a solution finishes, I can hover over it and click Open, and that will take me to the item in my content. So I want to take a look at the Citizen Problem Reporter solution here. So let's take a look at that solution. What we have available in ArcGIS Online is a new item type, a solution item, and it does a couple things. Again, it provides me that help documentation as well as a link to our full documentation. But it also helps organize the content that's included in the solution. And because the solution can be composed of many items, if you were just to browse to that folder inside of your content, it might be a little overwhelming and confusing how all those items work together. So what the solution does is it presents a nice list of the key information products that are included, and it also provides links to those items. And it also exposes the dependencies of items that are included with the solution. So for example, the Citizen Problem Reporter solution, which is one of our more popular solutions, is intended to allow government agencies to support a non-emergency problem reporting program in the community. So members of the public can go in and report non-emergency problems like potholes or streetlight outages. So the Problem Reporter app is that public-facing application that people can go to submit those issues. We also have a manager application that you can use to triage those reports and assign them to the appropriate parties or departments within the organization for resolution. We have a satisfaction survey that can be sent out after the problem is resolved to gauge sentiment. We have a dashboard that can monitor the program and how it's performing. And we have an ArcGIS hub site that can serve as that destination where residents can learn more about how the program works and how they can participate. So I can click on any of these items and it's taken me into that content. And we can also see, for example, here this dashboard is composed or has dependencies on 2 web maps, and those web maps are referencing a hosted feature layer view, which is built on top of a hosted feature service. So it makes it really easy for me to find those items in my content and navigate all the items that are a part of that solution. Let's take a look at the Citizen Problem Center site. So like I said, this is an ArcGIS hub site that can serve as my public destination for the problem reporting program in my community. And it comes over pre-configured with some text. Here we're describing how the program works, so we're encouraging people to join the community, submit a report, we'll review, and then ultimately complete it. Here's the section where members of the community can join the program and have an identity in the system so that when they submit a problem report, they can follow up and see their previously submitted issues. Here we're linking to submitting a problem report, and this is going to link to our Citizen Problem Reporter app. It's already configured and ready to use. It has many problem categories. We've localized the map extent to the default extent of the org. So if you've configured your org extent to your community's extent, that will already be set up. And I could share this out and people could start submitting non-emergency problems. We have an embedded web map here that will show me existing problem reports that have been already submitted in the community. We have some stats cards that will come to life as reports are submitted, resolved, and as satisfaction surveys are returned. We include a survey form where you can solicit volunteers. For example, you might have some community cleanup days in parks. People who are interested in volunteering could sign up and participate in those events. So we're really trying to promote the program and the different community events that are available. Because all of this is pre-configured, it gives me a quick starting point to go in and make any configurations. I might want to, for example, edit this site and update some of the theming and branding to match my community's kind of theme. I can update the text and the content. I can then also configure the web apps and the dashboards to meet my specific needs. Ultimately, when I've finished those configurations, I can share out the items, make it public, and now I have a problem reporting program in my community. So it makes it really easy to get this up and running quickly. And we've seen a lot of organizations do that. You know, the time from deployment to having something publicly available has been significantly reduced through solutions and their use of the ArcGIS Solutions app. So if I go back to the app here, today we have 90 solutions available in the app. Later this month, we're going to have a new release where we're going to be releasing many more. And we're also excited to announce that we'll be releasing this app and the solutions with ArcGIS Enterprise at 10.9. So you'll have the same experience in Enterprise. You can go to the app launcher, launch the app, and deploy your solutions in your enterprise. Late last year, we also released the new ArcGIS Solutions website on Esri.com. And this site is designed for new and existing customers to learn more about what ArcGIS solutions are and how they work. We offer many solutions across a range of industries, so we want to make it easier for users to find solutions that meet their business needs. We also want to promote our new and trending solutions from our homepage. And we find, we see it very often, our customers want to hear from their peers who have been successful with the solutions. And these testimonials are a great way to highlight the value of solutions in our customers' own words. We also provide a resources page that will provide the single destination for help related to deploying and using and configuring our solutions. For example, we provide some learning paths, blogs, links to our help documentation, videos, our GeoNet community, and training courses. We also migrated all of our doc to the same doc system, doc.arcgis.com, as the core products. So this creates a consistent user experience and makes it easier for us to link to different content across ArcGIS documentation. The documentation will also organize our solutions into industries and domains, so you can easily browse and find the solutions that meet your business needs. But we can also easily share these common solutions across domains, because many times, for example, things that apply to public works would also apply to state transportation organizations. Within each solution, we provide an introduction topic that, again, lays out the key capabilities and who it's intended for, how you can deploy the solution, the requirements, what you need to leverage it, the key information products that you'll use as part of the solution, and any required user type that you'll need to exercise those information products, and any release notes. As we release updates and new versions, we'll document what's changed. We'll also include a use topic that will walk you through the key workflows, so you can exercise often some of our try it live examples. So you can run through the workflows with sample data and see how they behave. And in many cases, we'll also provide a configure topic that will walk you through some of the common configurations. For example, in Citizen Problem Reporter, I might want to customize some of the different problem categories or problem types that I make available to the public. So in closing, the new ArcGIS Solutions app makes it easier than ever for you to deploy solutions in your organization. The app is now available in ArcGIS Online and is coming to Enterprise at 10.9. And the new ArcGIS Solutions website is the destination for you to learn how ArcGIS Solutions can transform your use of ArcGIS and reduce the time it takes to deploy geo-enabled solutions. You can then browse the complete collection of solutions, discover those solutions that align with your needs, and learn how to deploy, use, and configure them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who's going to demonstrate one of our solutions, equitable property value, so you get a better sense of how some of these complete solutions are coming together for you.
Thanks, Chris. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Looks good.
Thanks very much. So we're going to take a closer look at a solution that's already been deployed and already configured. One that's a good example of a solution with, like Problem Reporter that Chris just showed you, several information products focused on a few different types of users, but all unified around a public web presence. The equitable property value solution helps you increase public understanding and access to property information, particularly assessment and property tax processes. It helps residents access property information directly and understand their assessments and property taxes. It also provides focused information products for taxpayers, real estate professionals, title companies, and property owners. The foundation of the solution is the Equitable Property Value Hub site, which you're seeing right now. It's a fully configured site that works with the maps, apps, and feature layers that would be deployed from the solution app, and exactly in the same way that Chris showed you with Problem Reporter and the COVID dashboard. And all of those apps that we'll take a closer look at are wired up with the site right out of the box. So the buttons that we'll click to or we'll look at to access an app is already configured to access that app. So just below the header and purpose statement, we have some metrics that provide a high-level view of property in the community and provides some straightforward transparency. Next, we have a sort of background section where you can link to or describe how property is appraised, valuation processes, and any other pertinent information, again, to be transparent with the community. Embedded right into the site is one of the info products included with the solution. The tax liability calculator allows the public to quickly compute an estimated tax liability on a property. So let's say I'm interested in a $250,000 home. I can enter that in the estimated sales price and immediately see my estimated assessed value and tax liability. And of course, if I modify that sales price, the resulting calculations are updated as well. Because the tax liability calculator, like all ArcGIS solutions, is built with core ArcGIS components, these calculations can be easily configured to reflect your community's needs. Next, we have a section with applications that allow the general public to access property and tax distribution information, as well as floodplain characteristics. The tax parcel viewer, accessed here, provides 24/7 access to tax parcels and related assessment data, which are often the most frequent phone requests to the assessing department. So I can search by address, which I've already done for the interest of time, or click on the map to view information on a property. I can see ownership, district, assessment, and even a visualization of tax distribution so that I can see where tax dollars are being spent in the community from this property. Also accessed from that same application section is the floodplain inquiry app. And that helps the general public, or maybe more likely development companies or real estate professionals, determine if a property is located within a floodplain. So let's search by address. We'll use that same address that we just saw in the tax parcel viewer. So we can see all's well here at the at 543 South Main. This parcel is not, we can both see with a pretty clear message here on the right, as well as on the map, not within a flood zone. Search another address. But here at 35 East Hill Street, we again get a clear message that this property is affected by a flood zone, and we can see that visually on the map as well. The Equitable Properties site makes use of some of ArcGIS's premium capabilities, so you can engage residents with the, for example, assessment appeal process. So I've already followed this initiative and created an account, but we're providing some simple instructions to help residents understand how to create an account and access the apps that require it, including the Residential Comp Finder. The Residential Comp Finder can be used to find comparable sales for a property that you might be, or a location that you might be interested in. So quickly, I can see recent sales data on the map. I can click on those sales to access some information, or I can search by address. So I'm presented with a results list based on a distance from the address that I've searched, which can be modified using the buffer slider. In this case, I've got quite a few sales comparables, and I might want to try to whittle that down just a little bit using the included filters. So let's modify the sales amount, and maybe I'm just interested in homes that were built a bit more recent. And that gets us down to one comparable property. So I can take a look at that sale, and I can see all of that same information that I could see when I was clicking on the map, which includes some basic parcel characteristics, as well as the sales ratio. So let's head back to the Equitable Property Value site. So maybe after using the tax parcel viewer and the residential comp finder, I've decided that I'm interested in starting an appeal process. To do that, I can access the property tax assessment appeal form. It's a public-facing form that allows someone to, again, after they've created an account, put in a request to begin that assessment appeal process. So I've already filled out the form with a location for an address that I'm interested in and some basic characteristics like ownership, the parcel identification number, the type of property that I'm interested in appealing, the reason for my appeal, as well as some contact information. We're making use of the capability in Survey 123. As you'll probably know, this is a Survey 123 form that allows someone to sign a form. So we'll sign that. That's not my real signature. And after completing the form, we can submit it. So back to the site, we've also included an open data section. Many of you will have open data sites, but the nice thing about a site like this is it allows the data sets that we're providing to the community to be set in the context of focused maps and apps and an initiative so that they have a bit more meaning and value in the context of information that we're trying to share with the public. Included on the site is a calendar that helps communicate important property and assessment dates and deadlines that can particularly be important for the appeal process. And finally, what you hope with a site like this is, as a last resort, contact information in case a resident needs to contact the, in this case, assessing department after we've provided all of this great information above. So we saw a number of apps accessed within and from the equitable property value site, all of which make up the equitable property solution. So what Chris showed you sort of behind the scenes with Problem Reporter and all of the dependencies, maps, apps, feature layers, and forms. This is an example of one that has been strung together, tax parcel data loaded in, site addresses, floodplains to sort of liven up a solution that's fully configured right out of the box. As we've seen and we've tried to stress, ArcGIS solutions are often more than a single app. What they do is they offer opportunities to leverage the ArcGIS platform to manage workflows and provide public-facing apps that further the reach of what GIS professionals can deliver to their organizations. With that, I guess we'll see if we have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Chris. Matt, I think we're certainly willing to take any questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, thanks, guys. There wasn't a direct question in the chat. We had someone who was interested in some of the election content that was presented that they missed, but since we're recording, they said they'll check that out later. But,
hey, Mike, maybe you can just put a link to all the election stuff in the chat too. And I think we did a meetup early last year on it. Maybe we can just share both of those things with you guys in the chat.
Yep. Yeah, I'll link to a meetup, and I'll also provide a link to a story map that
that's a good idea. Yep.
helps explain all of the apps included with the election solutions.
Great, thanks, Mike.
And the doc page as well.
And then we do have a question that just came into chat. Can you go back to kind of when you were explaining the floodplain inquiry, how often is that refreshed with updated FEMA maps?
So that's just using the DFIRM panels for the community you're in. So it's as current as those official DFIRM panels and the content being generated from that the digital content being generated from that.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from any users? Oh, just got one popped in. Is there a limit to how many solutions you can deploy in ArcGIS Online?
No.
Can deploy to your heart's content, right?
Yeah.
You can deploy. There's There's also cases where you may deploy the same solution multiple times. For example, our election results solution, you would deploy for every election cycle, every election, and have a unique results dashboard for it. And then you can share it with a gallery app or a hub site to have a historical election results. So that's kind of a pattern where you deploy the same solution multiple times.
Hey, Chris, while you're on that topic, talk a little bit about how the solution app works with like shared content.
Yeah, so oftentimes there may be feature layers that are shared between solutions. And in those cases, for example, take our election solutions. We have a foundational layer called election geography that has things like precincts and polling places. That foundational layer is used across our election outreach and our election management solutions. So when you deploy election outreach, it will create that foundational layer the first time. And then when you deploy election management, the app will know that you've already deployed that feature layer and not create you another copy. Will reuse that same version in your content. Of course, if you deploy a solution multiple times, the same solution multiple times, it will create a duplicate of that feature layer. But it is smart in those scenarios where solutions share foundational layers.
Thanks, Chris. That's great. We do have one other question I see. Will the election app information include instructions for updating the tables that the solutions used?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sandon. Do you mean extending the tables, like adding additional fields?
Basically what I'm referring to is, say like you've got it deployed and you get, you have your table with all the results in it, and then you have to update the election results as more results come in. I know I had tried to do like delete and append,
Yeah.
but I would always end up failing because there were just too many records.
That's okay. So that's a great question. So the election results, it's a dashboard configuration that provides a really nice web presence and geographically centered view of displaying election results. Currently, we don't have a workflow for what Sandon is talking about, which is really election night reporting. It's so our primary use case when we released that solution was after the results have been certified, providing a web presence so that people can examine the results in their neighborhood by precinct, different levels of geography. However, since we released that solution, from folks like Sandon and others, we've learned that there's a great interest at the local level for doing election night reporting directly from you guys. So we have some ideas about how we want to handle that. I can't say I won't put a date on it, but that is an enhancement we're looking to add to election results to be able to handle that sort of continuous feed of data a couple times throughout an election night.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thanks, guys. I think that's it for the questions, but we do have a couple just kudos to the team and all the great work that you're doing. We have several folks that have deployed and modified several of the solutions, and they just want to thank you for all that hard work and keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah. And thanks everyone for the feedback.
All right. So with that, we've come to the end of our morning session. So we'll be taking an hour break here for lunch. And then for those of you that are interested in joining us after lunch, we have a special topic that we'll be covering. And let me share my screen, talk briefly about it. So this afternoon, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have a discussion focused in around ArcGIS Enterprise. So the majority of what we talked about this morning was focused in on ArcGIS Online and in the cloud. And this afternoon, we'll be focusing on installing ArcGIS and using ArcGIS on-prem through ArcGIS Enterprise. So our team's going to do an overview of ArcGIS Enterprise for the group. And then we're going to have a conversation with a few of our users, Pete from Ottawa County, and then Chip and Kyle from the state of Michigan, who have both deployed ArcGIS Enterprise within their respective environments. And so we'll be asking them some questions about their experience and then taking some questions in from all of you. So I encourage you to join us again after lunch. And Everett, I'll hand it back to you to close out the morning.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, and thanks everybody for all the presentations this morning. Obviously a lot going on. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to do this. I am going to stop the recording now. I'm going to leave the meeting open so that for those of you who will be back at 1 o'clock, we don't have to go through the admitting you from the lobby. And we look forward to getting back together at 1. So thank you, everyone. And if you can't join, thanks. Stay in touch. Matt, one question, I guess, if people have questions about today, do you want those to come to you, or should we go to the subject matter experts, depending on what they are?
Yeah, it's always a good practice to reach out to your respective teams at Esri that support you. So we have our local gov team I mentioned earlier. Many of you probably know Sarah Schrader, and then Philip, who gave a presentation this morning that represent local government within the state. And then Mark Alexander and myself, we work with all the state government agencies. So if the prospective agencies could reach out to those folks, we'll get you the answers that you need.
Very good. Thank you. Well, with that, we'll end the morning and be back at 1 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you.